Hey guys, Tammy here. And in this video, I'm going to ask you a question. Are you ready to be the boss in your child custody case? All right. Now, look, I know most of us feel like we are very, very far from being the boss in this situation. And a lot of times you can really feel like a victim. And a boss mentality is going to serve you much, much better than a victim mentality. Let me, as always, remind you, if you like this content, please hit like on this video. Also subscribe to the channel so you get notified as new content is released. What does it really mean to be the boss in your child custody situation? Well, let's think about a boss in terms of the workplace, right? What does the boss represent when we talk about that? Well, the boss is kind of the person where the buck stops here, right? They are ultimately responsible for everything. Even if you have somebody who's the CEO or whatever, and something happens with the janitor, right? I mean, that flows, or the janitor makes the wrong, does something wrong or does something incorrect that has some ramification, that flows all the way up the line. Right? I mean, you're only as strong as your weakest link. What happens in really great organizations is that boss takes that responsibility and they put systems and procedures in place so that they ensure that the next time that the standard is met and that those things don't happen, right? We go back and we analyze and we figure it out. What the boss doesn't do, if they're a good and successful and strong organization, is the boss doesn't step back and go, well, I don't know, the janitor did that, not me, so I can't tell you what happened there. That's not really the mentality, right? The boss is the person that takes full responsibility. And so I think a lot of times in our child custody case, we want to blame everybody else. We want to blame the other parent. We want to blame the court. We want to blame the experts. We want to blame the children. And that really puts you in a victim mindset. When you can start to transition that mindset and put yourself in a boss mode, then what that means is you taking full responsibility for everything that is happening. And I'm not saying you can control the other parent, but you can control your reaction to the other parent. You can control your communication with the other parent. You can control what you're presenting and how you're preparing yourself. You can control whether or not you get educated and learn how to deal with these things well and understand the process and how to advocate for yourself. All kinds of things that are within your control. You can control whether you're showing up for your parenting time. You can control how engaged you are with your kids. You can control how much you participate in their life. You can control if you go to parent-teacher conferences. You can control if you're showing up at the therapy appointments. There's all kinds of things in these situations that are within our control, but we tend to focus on the things that are not in our control, which puts us into a victim mentality, which does not serve you. When you're in a victim mentality, you are essentially giving your power away to that other person. Okay, so if you're blaming your ex for everything, then you're essentially giving them the power, because then you're saying, well, they're the one that's causing all this. I can't do anything about it. I can't change it. They've caused all this to me. So nothing I can do. Not true. There may not be anything you can do to change it in an instant, which is what most of us are looking for, right? We live in the age of instant gratification. We're always looking for that quick fix. Well, there's nothing I can do right now to see my kids today, this instant, next week, whatever it is, whatever that urgency is for you. But what you can do is educate yourself, create a plan, and take the methodical steps that will get you there. Now, let's take a business, for example. I had the pleasure for several years, I think about 3 or 4 years, of working for the Mayo Clinic. And I worked for the location in Arizona. This was many, many years ago. But the thing that was very interesting to me is I remember being so excited when I got this job. It was, it really was kind of I worked in healthcare for a long time, and it really was kind of a step up to the next level. I had historically worked in hospitals and whatnot, and I was actually in the clinic side. So it was like 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, no weekends, no holidays. It was not in the hospital. It was, an admin job. And so it was just like next level for me at that point. And I was really, really excited. And I remember going in, and what they do there, and this is, I had 2 physicians that I supported and 3 physician assistants, and I was essentially the admin assistant in the clinic. And what they do is they send you to a training class for 30 days. So the first 30 days that you're on the job, you're actually in a classroom going through procedures and training on, how to move the patient, how the patient file moves through the building, and, how to request a patient file and how to input orders and how to, do your doctor's schedule and how, whatever it is. So you're literally sitting at a desk for 30 days learning how to do this stuff before you ever go to your desk. And then once you go to your desk, they have a trainer sitting with you for the first, I don't know what it was. It was maybe 2-3 weeks. It might've been another month, but it was at least a couple weeks. And then that trainer leaves, and then you're on your own. And I can remember, like, the 3rd or 4th day on my own, going into my boss and sitting down in her office. Now I'm a young, I'm a young lady at this point. That's probably my late 20s, not much life experience or anything. And I go in and I just start crying. And she's like, "What is the matter?" And I said, "I don't know what I said to make you think that I could do this job, but I can't." I was so overwhelmed. And, I feel like I'm a pretty, like, with it person, especially on the admin side of things. Like, that's kind of my wheelhouse. I'm pretty good at that. But I just felt so overwhelmed by all the procedures and processes and everything that I was having to learn and coordinate and do. And she's like, "Look, everybody feels this way in the beginning. You feel overwhelmed. You will get it. You will start to understand it." And I think that's what happens in child custody is, we get sort of dragged into this process, sometimes kicking and screaming, right? Sometimes we're the one initiating it, but sometimes we're not. But even when we are, we don't know anything about it. We don't know what all the lingo means. We don't know what the forms mean. We don't understand why the court views certain things we do as good or bad or whatever. And we just don't really know. That 30 days in the classroom was critical in giving me the foundation to even be able to survive. Like, I can't imagine, as overwhelmed as I was, if I had gone in and I didn't even have that foundational knowledge to draw on. And yet I think that's what we do in our custody cases is we just wing it. Well, no, there are things to understand. There are ways to educate yourself and things that you need to know to be able to navigate this and to not create that overwhelming feeling for yourself. Because if you're in that overwhelmed state, you're definitely not being a boss. Part of it is stepping back from it and kind of creating a plan for yourself, right? A strategic plan as if you were a business, right? Where am I at right now? Where do I want to get to in my parenting and my parenting schedule? And what do I want that to look like? And now, how do I break that down into the little steps that I need to specifically take to get me to that point? And yet, do we do that? No. A lot of us do that in our careers, or we'll do that with our business, or we'll do that with all these other aspects of our life, but we don't actually do that with our custody case, our court case. And honestly, it's critical because right now you're totally winging it. And so how do you even know where you're going to end up at the end? Because you don't have a plan. You don't have specific actions. You don't even know what the plan needs to be, should be, looks like, nothing. So how can you expect yourself to be a boss in your case if you aren't preparing yourself to be that boss, right? They don't go in the first day on my first day on the job at Mayo Clinic. They did not say, "Okay, here, you're in charge of all the admin staff. You manage everybody." what? I don't even know how to sit down and input an order into the computer or schedule an appointment for my doctor. Like, I don't even know how to do that. I can't be in charge of everybody. This is the part that you have to get. If you're going to be a boss and you're going to manage this case like a boss, then you've got to prepare and educate yourself the way a boss would. You got to do it in very short order, right? It's almost like a crash course. Thomas used to say it's like trying to teach someone a law, a whole semester of law in like an hour sometimes, when we're with people. So it is a process. It takes time, but you need to figure out where you're at, where you want to go, and then have somebody that can help you break down those steps and figure out how to get there. And you may not be able to get there today, and you may not be able to get there tomorrow, but most of the time you can get to where you want to be with some very specific action once you kind of understand the playing field. So I hope that's helpful. I hope that gives you some hope. I hope that enables you to step into boss mode and do what you need to do to prepare yourself for what lies ahead. If you'd like to learn more about my coaching services, you can go to divorceuniversityonline.com/VIP-coaching. There's a link on that page. You can book an appointment to speak to one of my staff and learn about how I might be able to support you on this journey. Thanks for joining me.
We'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands.